Good evening, everyone. I'm your host, comedian, magician, Danny Whitson. But it's all tricks aside, because tonight we're turning the paranormal into the normal. Join me as we explore the gray areas of reality. We're going to talk all things paranormal, UFOs, ghosts, cryptids, and aliens, and see how it's all connected. This podcast is brought to you by the Experiencer Support Association, and we are live. So if you're an experiencer yourself, or you're just plain nosy, be sure to send me your question and subscribe to the podcast. Now, get ready, because it's going to get deep. No, really, we're going to go way out there, because this is Beyond the TinFoil Hat. What's happening, my paranormal junkies? Welcome to Beyond the TinFoil Hat. I'm your host, comedian, magician, Danny Whitson. And guys, we got a fantastic show for you tonight. But first, I want to give a quick little shout out, because starting next Monday, our very own Ryan Stacy, his podcast will be airing at 5 o'clock on Monday. Next Monday, under our new network, under the new paranormal network that Beyond the TinFoil Hat is going to be under. You could check out Ryan Stacy's podcast Monday at 5 o'clock called The Skeptical Sleuth. All right. And this is where Ryan's going to be making talking about maybe criticizing, being a little skeptical on some of these topics, but he'll definitely get down to the juicy stuff. So you want to check that out next Monday at 5 o'clock, The Skeptical Sleuth with Ryan Stacy. Then the next day, Tuesday, 6 p.m., Beyond the TinFoil Hat will be airing. So 6 p.m. next Tuesday. All right. So check us out, Beyond the TinFoil Hat. And then Monday, 5 o'clock, check out The Skeptical Sleuth. Okay. Also, if you guys have not done so yet, head over to Patreon, Heed the World -Patreon. All right. And check us out. Give a little donation, a little something goes towards your podcast. Everything helps. And in return, you get to check out some really cool stories and some investigations by Ryan. Definitely worth it. Only like $4. Totally worth it. Check it out. All right, guys. Tonight's guest is a very interesting one. She's an investigative author and a documentary filmmaker who has traveled the world exploring a variety of topics, okay, including the mysterious world of UFOs, okay? She has went in depth on the Billy Meier case and the wave of UFO sightings in Mexico. So, guys, let's give a big Beyond the TinFoil Hat welcome for Brit Elders.
Hello.
How are you doing, Brit?
I'm doing well, Danny. How about you?
Doing good, and welcome to Beyond the TinFoil Hat. This is exciting.
Thank you.
I tell you what, if you don't mind, though, do you care to let our viewers know a little more about you?
Sure. I'm basically a writer. I love to write. Have been writing since I was a kid. Completed my first novel when I was in 8th grade, and decided at that point I didn't like nonfiction or fiction, so I went totally into nonfiction and became an investigator at that point. My husband and I have had a real investigation company. We had an electronic countermeasure company that dealt with keeping Fortune 500s and banks, financial institutions free of wiretapping and eavesdropping. And we did a lot of great work. We were working with some wonderful companies all around the world. And oddly enough, that's what led us into UFOs.
So, okay, was there a situation or experience as far as that kind of got you guys there? Did you see something?
No, a friend of ours, those companies were really uptight. This is back in the 70s. Nobody wanted to talk about UFOs or anything like that at that point in time. Betty and Barney Hill was still fresh in the minds of people. The whole concept of abduction was kind of scary to everyone. Travis Walton had just had an experience, and his was, again, rather scary to a lot of people. A friend of ours, a retired Air Force colonel, brought us some photographs and said, "This case is amazing." Well, we took a look at the photographs and went, "Too good to be true. They're too clear, too perfect." And we said, "Nope, you're on your own." So he went to Switzerland. He met with this individual that had taken the photographs. He came back and he said, "You got to get your company behind this." We had a business thing happening in London. We went over, did that, decided to go into Switzerland to meet this man, Billy Meier. We thought within a day or two we'd figure out how he was doing it, and we'd come home having solved the mystery. We got there. We were there 5 days. We talked to Meier constantly. Before we left, he gave us photographs, movie footage, sound recordings of the craft, metal samples of the craft, and we had interviewed dozens of witnesses at that point. Wow. So that's what got us into UFOs. Once you get into it, you never get out of it. Yeah, it's in your blood.
Well, I mean, especially, I mean, not only you just didn't get somebody, you know, hey, I saw a UFO. I mean, you got presented some hardcore evidence of something.
Right.
And what year was this again, Brett?
We went over and met Meier in 1977.
In 1977. So
yeah.
You saw this and you thought this was just too good to be true. There's no way. And then, so, I mean, beforehand, before you saw these pictures, you were definitely a skeptic. You were definitely a non-believer in these kind of things.
My husband more so than I, because my father was literally a rocket engineer. He worked with von Braun on the early missile systems, and he would come home and they'd be sitting around, he and his buddies, talking about what was flying when they were trying to launch their missiles, and what the hell did they think that was, and why was it there, and it wasn't ours. So I had that kind of openness, that the curiosity that these engineers had, because when you hear it as a kid, you just sort of think, oh, that's normal, I guess, and you go on about life. So I wasn't quite so skeptical, but Lee definitely was. And so I was more open. I enjoyed the conversations we were having with Meier, but when it came to bringing out physical evidence, my left brain kicked in and said, okay, we got to really dig into this and see what we can find out.
So with those pictures, and I mean, so do you think was it something, do you think it was alien, or do you think maybe it was, you do?
Yes. Let me tell you why. I'll just take the segments of evidence and run it through some of the steps we went to. With the photographs, we took them to Michael Malin down at U of A, University of Arizona. And he went through them and he pixelated everything. He had it all digitized. From there, it went into other laboratories. We didn't stop there. We went to places that could tell us the approximate size, which was about 21 feet in diameter. So that's a pretty massive model. And it was based on triangulation of the ship itself versus the trees, which we had known measurements on, how far away from the camera they were and how tall they were. So we could triangulate the size of this thing. It couldn't have been a model 21 feet. You would have had to have had a crane suspending it. So that was one aspect. Then we ended up taking it to places like Scripps, took it to Eric Eliason at USGS, who is in charge of the Mars mapping project. Took it to Robert Post, who is the head of JPL's photo lab. All of them came back and said, we don't believe in contact. We don't believe in UFOs. We can't tell you what this is, and we can't duplicate it. So what do you do with that? You know, it's one of those things that, all right, they can't duplicate it, and they are masters at their field. We decided to take it one step further, and we contacted Wally Gentleman. Wally had done the special effects for 2001: A Space Odyssey for Kubrick. He was well known, had won all kinds of awards for his work. And we said, build us a model so we can suspend it from a line, photograph it, film it, and run it back through the same process, and let's see what we get. He did, and we did. We actually got a pole and a line and hung this beautiful model, looked just like one of Meier's ships, ran it back through. You could see the monofilament line that suspended it. You could see that the edges weren't wide enough to make it more than just about a foot, 8 inches to a foot in diameter. That was it. It did not pass the smell test any way we went. So we went on then to the movie footage. And the movie footage was interesting because Meier actually had a segment of movie footage where the craft is hovering in the sky and beneath it cars are driving on the highway. So
Wow.
we had, again, known objects and unknown objects. So we could correlate. It was 8mm footage. It couldn't have been messed with, not like you can video. And back then, we didn't have any photogrammetric programs.
It was extremely difficult. I mean, I
Right.
couldn't even imagine. And also extremely expensive to the means that you would have to do to make it. When you look at like the first Star Wars film and stuff, you would have to really go out there to
Right. But
so
industrial light and magic was just getting started,
true.
back in the 70s, in the mid 70s. We didn't have cameras that took pictures. I mean, Billy used an old 35mm that he could operate with one hand because he had lost an arm in a bus accident. So all of this kind of added up and added up. Then we went to the sound recordings, and the audio engineers that we brought in were amazed. They said that there were so many frequencies, and they would just be screeching literally out there, and then they would converge into one frequency and then back out into multiple frequencies. We had a man that worked in Groton, Connecticut at a naval facility where they had all of the sounds ever recorded stored. He could not find a comparable sound. So we went to more engineers and said, what are you hearing? And they're saying, oh, it's resonating to the Schumann resonance of the earth. Oh, no, it's changing. And it was all back and forth. They could not explain it. They couldn't duplicate it. They couldn't figure out what it was worth, especially when they started really analyzing through the oscilloscopes what was happening. They thought had something to do with propulsion, but they weren't sure. And nobody knows. I mean, it's just one of those things we can only speculate about. Then we got into the metal, and this was fascinating to almost every scientist that looked at it. We took it to Marcel Vogel at IBM. Marcel had patents and all of this other work behind him. He was quite a metallurgist, and through a scanning electron microscope, he saw that the metal had a pure piece of metal and then crystalline structure, and then a pure piece of metal. It had not been heated and poured in the typical way that we mold metal today. It was done with a cold fusion process, and that fascinated him. And it had all these birefringent materials in it. Plus, it had something that was very unique, thulium, which is a rare earth element, very costly to extract, very rare on the earth, hard to find. How would Meier know to put that into a hunk of metal? So, I mean, that's just the evidence in a nutshell that was so fascinating to us that it just took us 7 years to get through that because there was so much there.
Did this make your husband a believer?
It did. It did. I think the thing that got him most was the metal samples, because Vogel brought in 42 other scientists from all over the place to sit down and go through his findings and then check it out, make certain he had done things properly. None of them could duplicate it.
And to me, first of all, I love the way that you guys did approach that with an skeptic point of view, and you did, intense research to, and it's kind of hard. Like, a lot of people say, well, why would anybody lie about this? Well, human beings are giant pieces of crap. They lie about everything. Who knows why human beings lie about half the crap they do?
Right.
But the so a lot of times when I do see something too, I look at it and skepticize,
Mm-hmm.
and I think, well, how would I do that myself if I was to do this? But the thing that just intrigues me more than anything is the amount of evidence we have, and the amount of similar stories that we continuously get, and it's so it gets to a point where you just can't ignore that.
That's right.
And so, but now so this incident here, this was the main incident that got you guys running with what you do.
Absolutely. Like I said, it took 7 years to get through this investigation, and it was very costly, very time consuming. Our company suffered from it because we wanted to find answers. But every time we found an answer, 50 more questions would pop up. So we were constantly, what else can we do? What can we learn? How can we move forward?
Well, speaking of questions, bump, 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 bump. Our very own Liv Light is in the house. And Liv always comes with the real deal questions, Britt. All right.
Okay.
So here we go. Hi, Britt. Did you handle the metal pieces yourself? How big were they? And did you observe anything unusual about the metal?
Yes. And I'll tell you how big they were. And yes. Yes, we did handle them with gloves, did not want to touch them, did not want to contaminate them with human oils or anything like that. When Billy brought them out to us, he brought a pink, tattered, dusty shoebox out, and in it was, do you remember the old 35 millimeter canisters that held the film? Yeah, that's what he was keeping the metal in. So he opened it up, poured it in the lid, showed it to us. We went, oops, put it back. Put it back in. And we brought it home. But when it was handled with people that had gloves on, and usually using forceps to hold it so that it wasn't, contaminated anyway. The size of it was there were 4 specimens we got. The biggest was about the size of a pencil eraser, the eraser on the end of a pencil. The smallest were little granules. The interesting thing about those granules, and they look like, super small BBs. But the interesting thing about them was that we were filming with the Japanese film crew, and we poured them out of the canister. Not all of them, thank goodness, but they started breaking apart when the lights from the Japanese crew hit them. The light was so intense and hot, just started breaking apart.
Wow.
We still, to this day, do not know why that happened. And it has been replicated once. We do know it can happen, but we don't want to take the chance of losing that piece of metal. So, yeah. But we had various different sizes. The largest was the size of a pencil eraser. And then the small were these little tiny pellets, maybe about the size of a homeopathic pellet.
Now, why do you think Billy came forth with this? Why do you think he?
It wasn't to better his life, which I've heard a lot of people say, because the man had assassination attempts.
Yeah.
His daughter was threatened, and some people tried to kidnap her. He was basically ostracized from polite society. I hate to use air quotes, but I had to there. He went through hell. I mean, when we met Billy, he's a very simple, humble man. He's a farmer. He's a man of earth, and he's a very earthy person. He had traveled through the Middle East and Europe, so he was worldly, but he was not educated like we think of an education. He wanted to share his information, but he didn't want to be the focal point of it, because he was told by the Pleiadians, who gave him all of this stuff, that his job was to present it to the world so we, the Earth humans, would realize we're not the only thinking beings in space, in the universe.
You know what I wonder, Brett? Here's the thing, okay?
Yeah.
I totally get that. I don't see why anybody, there's a lot of guys like him that have come forward with evidence that aren't big blabbermouths like me. Why don't y'all show me something? Give me something. I'll tell everybody. I don't shut up, But it's a lot of times it is these guys are like, hey, I don't really want the limelight, but damn, I got to tell somebody about this.
Right.
I mean, I can name a lot, which
Mm-hmm.
makes you wonder. It's like, these guys don't seem like they're fame chasers. They don't seem like they're attention seekers.
Right.
So you think the motivation here is something that must it just may be like a heavy weight burden that they're carrying around. I couldn't imagine if I had like actual real evidence
Mm-hmm.
that there's other life out there that's visiting our planet, and I'm not telling anybody. That's just, to me, that sounds like just super important information.
Exactly. And I think people that have this type of experience that Billy has had, they feel a responsibility to share it. And I would. I mean, if I had an experience like that, I would also be hesitant knowing what he's gone through and what others have gone through. But it's something you do have a responsibility to get out there to the world so they know what's going on.
So do you think now earlier you said, what did you say just a moment ago? You said the Pleiadians? Is that what you said?
Pleiadians, yes.
Pleiadians.
From the star cluster of the Pleiades.
Okay, well, tell us about that. I want to know. Let's hear about the Pleiadians.
The star cluster from the Pleiades are about 500 light years from Earth. It's a beautiful little sparkly cluster. It's chased across the sky by Orion's belt. And at midnight on November 17th, you can look straight up and they're right above you. The Pleiades system itself probably wouldn't support life without being engineered. The Pleiadians, the people from the Pleiades that talked to Billy, told him that their original home planet was in the system of Lyra, and that they had a lot of conflict on their planet, much as we have, and that they destroyed the planet. And in that process, many escaped and went to other places and engineered new homelands, new planets where they could live. But they had to engineer the oxygen content. They had to engineer the water, everything, before they could actually live there. So that's kind of the Pleiades in a nutshell. Yeah.
So they need oxygen and water just like we do.
They are physical beings and look very much like us. The one that he met first was named Simyasa. She had long blonde hair. She had blue eyes, very fair, almost a translucent quality to her skin. Wore a one-piece jumpsuit. Came out from the craft. They sat down in a field in Switzerland under a tree and talked for a couple of hours. That was the initial contact. Yeah.
So this is where it's just, I mean, you know where I'm saying. I mean, it's just so.
It's mind-boggling.
It's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. So, I mean, I've heard different stories. I've heard the stories, or the people say there's several different types of races, and types of aliens that have come here and visit us. Why though, out of all of them, is it not common? We're not just walking around amongst living with each other.
Yeah. That's a really good question that I don't have a good answer to. I do know that the Pleiadians told Billy they can only be around people of Earth for a limited amount of time.
Me too. I totally understand.
Then you'll understand this. They say humans have auric stench. In other words, our vibrational fields are so cluttered with garbage and, anger and frustration and hatred and all of that, we make them ill.
Gosh.
So if they do come to Earth, they can only be here for a limited period of time with people because it just makes them too sick. Billy says they turn around in their head,
Well, we all know people like that too. Like,
That's right.
Like, I know people that I can only check in on once a month because I love them. But then it's like, okay, it's been 10 minutes. I'm done.
Yeah, right.
Okay, well, that makes sense. We stink. We stink
Yeah.
to the rest of the universe.
Our energy field stinks. Yes.
Gosh, we're
Mhm.
awful. Gosh, that's okay. Well, so after Billy case,
Uh-huh.
did that set like a bug off? What did you guys? What was your next move?
Yeah, we were involved in some other cases around the world. We started doing a lot of research into the history of various cultures around the globe that tie into the Pleiades. We got very involved in the 90s with Jaime Maussan in Mexico and what was going on down there. It was remarkable down there because it was a daily thing. People would be seeing UFOs and filming them. This was starting the very beginning of the 90s, still
Well,
going on today.
tell us about him. What exactly was happening?
Jaime Maussan is an investigative journalist. He used to be the host of 60 Minutes in Mexico. He was
Okay.
the editor general. He's a true journalist. He called us one time and he said, "You've got to get down here." And we went down and were amazed. We have to date well over 10,000 videos from Mexico of these anomalous objects in the sky. Can't be defined, do strange things, loop-de-loop around each other, right angle turns. So many people have seen them. They make front page headlines. Front page headlines when they are seen. They're on the news. People are talking about them. We don't hear anything about it up here. But down there, it's accepted. They go have parties on hills and wait for the UFOs to come in. It's quite amazing. It's a whole different attitude.
Wow. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean it's crazy how that news never makes it up here and we never hear anything.
that's
And
right.
I've heard skeptics say, "Well, why is it only in America where UFO?" And that's not true, dude. They're all over the world.
Yeah.
It
South
just
America, oh
yeah.
my gosh. I mean, what's
Gosh,
gone
South
on in
America is like,
Brazil,
I mean, a
it's a
lot of
hotbed.
activity.
Yeah, always has been. And they have a historical connection, much as the American Indians do, to various star systems. And they consider them their star brothers. They're not afraid of them. They're curious about them, but their history and their lore talks about them and how these beings came from the stars and helped them, gave them tips on how to farm or build an observatory, things like that.
Isn't it actually? Now, I may be totally wrong here, but is it Peru? Where is it to where it literally looks like they made a runway from the sky? I believe isn't
Are you
that South
talking about
America?
the Nazca lines?
I believe so. I believe
Yeah,
so.
they're amazing. There are so many things, and really, even though a lot of scientists are now trying to debate, well, we could have done it from the ground had we done this and this and this. The easiest way to make those lines perfect and those images perfect, like the thunderbird and the hummingbird, things like that, is from above,
Yeah.
looking down. So yeah, we just have to make things difficult. That's all.
And that's the other thing you have to be careful when you debunk, okay? Because
Yeah.
sometimes they get confirmation bias, people do, and you
Yeah.
go beyond. You're like, well, if I do this, eventually I can get my answer that I want.
That's true.
So, and I mean, and that does happen sometimes,
Hmm.
unfortunately, Now I'm all for the scientific method, 100%. I do, I believe in it, but at the same time, it's the operator error sometimes.
Yeah.
And sometimes the most reasonable excuse is like, hey, maybe we don't know. Maybe we don't know everything. So
I think that that's very, very important to understand because we have such an arrogant opinion of ourselves that we are so perfect and we're the only ones here and we know it all. And we don't. We're babes in the woods just trying to understand what on earth is going on.
I always use the metaphor like I was like, existence is basically you. Now, this is going to go left field for a second, and I
Okay.
apologize.
No,
But it's like a Saw movie. You ever seen the crazy horror movie Saw?
no, I missed that one.
Well, okay, all right. Here, well, some idiot wakes up in a room chained to the wall, and there's a recording. We're going to play a little game. He doesn't know where the hell he's at or what's going on, but he has to figure it out to get the hell out of there. that's existence in a nutshell. We don't know anything. We just, hey, this is, how did we get here? We really don't know. We're just here,
Mhm.
So but then we just, we kind of make crap up as we go,
Mhm.
based off, what we can see. And, no one knows. So,
Right. But we learn a little at a
oh, yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And we keep progressing. And that's what we have to do. We've got to keep progressing and keep thinking and moving forward in our thought and our actions. And we got to get over our arrogance because we probably are not the only thinking beings in the universe, despite what we seem to think we are. And it's important to realize that because we're talking about in the very near future sending spacecraft to Mars and then going further into the universe. What happens when we got out there and we find there's all kinds of different individuals, just like we are here, different. They're all out there too. Yeah.
I mean, I think some people, I think, they're more comfortable thinking we're the only ones, or they've got it all figured out. And because one thing, human beings, we don't like to not be in control, ultimately.
Right.
And and to think that there could be something else coming here that, it scares them. It scares people a little bit.
Sure.
So, I mean, at this point, it doesn't scare me. It doesn't scare me at all. I find it interesting. Heck, I mean, there's a lot more stuff about our own human race that scare me and terrify me than some
I
other
agree.
outside source. So, but
I absolutely agree.
And now, but in your situation, this is what I always try to, picture, because I've heard a lot of stories, Britt. I've heard a lot of stories. And I think I always wonder, how did you feel? I mean, what really went off in your brain whenever you realized, when you saw this evidence, you saw these things that most people have never seen before in their life. And now you have to think, holy crap, there's life beings here. This is real.
I didn't. I thought, thank goodness there's somebody else besides us. Now it makes sense. It made more sense to me because when you look at the night sky and all those beautiful sparkling orbs, how can you possibly think we're the only ones? So
Yeah.
to me, that just cemented, oh, wonderful. I'm really glad they're here.
And there's so many things too that, and I'm not even going to go down this road, but so many things that had to be perfect in order just for us to exist here, where we're at, which is, yeah, I mean, I guess you can play the odds, and if something, if something is around long enough, it's bound to, if you sling enough poop on the wall, something's bound to stick. I get it. But to me, it just seems, I personally don't think that we would evolve to be able to question certain things if there wasn't a purpose for that wonder and for that. You understand what I'm saying?
I do.
So, I mean, we have hands for a reason. We have eyes for a reason. We have ears. So we have the ability to question our own existence for a reason.
Exactly.
So I think that's very important. What is your take like on what's going on right now? Because first of all, we live in crazy times right now, and it's pretty awesome that we do have some media outlets that take the UFO phenomenon very serious.
Yeah.
The first time, I never in a million years would have ever thought we'd had anybody testify in Congress.
Wasn't that wonderful? To a degree. Yeah.
So all these things, but what is some of your opinion on some of these videos that's being captured? What's going on right now?
I think there's a lot going on and all over the world. I mean, thankfully, those Navy fighter pilots brought that footage out, were open about it, discussed it. I think everybody owes them a big tip of the hat and a lot of gratitude. I was very disappointed in the hearings because they just made it such a, oh, it's national security. We have to be afraid, blah, 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 blah. No, don't be afraid. Want to learn. If they were going to hurt us, don't you think they would have done it by now? I mean, this has been going on for eons, not just the last few months. So get real. Look at what you can learn from it and move that way rather than being locked into the fear.
I've looked at this on a, I've looked at it on both sides. Like, I've watched a lot of these interviews, and I'm just like, let's just say it was us and we were doing some type of training, testing these new vehicle, some crazy drone or something,
Right.
Why would we put our own men and women in danger?
Exactly.
That would create, you don't know how these pilots are going to react. They may try to shoot it out of the sky and then what, it'd be very reckless attitude if it was ours. And then, on the flip side, I was like, man, let's really hope it doesn't belong to Russia or China, because that would suck.
That's right. You do have to take that into consideration.
So I want it to be aliens. I want it to be aliens. But it's mind blowing, it's because it is there. And, we live in a day and age where everyone has a camera on them constantly. And I think that's why we're getting so much footage. And now keep in mind, let's be honest, let's keep this on the skeptic side too. We're also getting a lot of bad stuff too.
Yeah, we get a lot of insects flying through the frame and they go, oh, a UFO. Yeah.
A UFO. Or you never know. We do live in a day and age where we strive for clicks and likes and views. And somebody like, I've watched plenty of paranormal stuff, and probably the worst things ever you could do, folks, is try to, it was a poltergeist and the cabinet's open. I can fake that. That's the easiest thing to fake. Okay. And the camera just has to, just be sitting at the right perfect angle,
Yep.
So, but so you do have to weigh a lot of that stuff out. But just a couple weeks ago, I don't know if you saw this, but did you see the video footage the lady got on the airplane, LaGuardia Airport, New York City?
I did.
Wow. That's all I can say.
But do you know how much footage comes in from around airports? There is so much that we never see. In Mexico, we had a pilot call and say, we have a problem, because as I was coming into Mexico City, this is one of the largest cities in the world, he saw a craft come in. It hit the strut of his plane as the landing gear was coming down. They made it down safely, thank goodness. But when he got off and the engineers came out to look at that strut, they said that he was really lucky, that it was bent and twisted and it had to be struck by something hard and heavy. That's, just south of us with all these American tourists going down to enjoy Mexico City. So yeah, there's so much going on. Sightings around Japan's main airport in Tokyo.
I would love to hear that. Well, isn't there a famous case actually with two Japanese pilots?
Yes.
And that saw something,
and that was a commercial flight.
Oh man,
that they were reporting on. Yeah. And they were saying, what is this? Is it American? Is it Russian? What is it? They didn't know.
And there's so many stories that we never hear about. Never hear about. All right. She's back. Live light. She is back. Let's see. With all your experiences, do you think there is a main message from, I'm going to mess this up, guys, the Pleiadians?
Pleiadians, yes.
Pleiadians. At least we've got a name for them, and we're not calling them the Grays or the Blues. That's racist. Right. Here we go. What does humanity need to learn?
We need to learn, one, that we're not the only thinking beings out there, but we need to learn to balance the physical realities and the technical world in which we live and the development of the spirit. That's according to the Pleiadians. They say we have to have more harmony with those two things, because if you're just dealing with the technical side of life or just dealing with the, oh my gosh, my physical side of life. Am I going to be able to pay the bills? And do I want to see that show or that movie? That is not a complete life. To them, the complete life has to include and spiritual isn't even really the right word, but it's a connection to creation, recognizing that creation exists within everything. And it's what sparks life within everything. And we're all a part of it. And we're all related. We're interrelated from the standpoint of that attachment to creation, not to make it a religion, because that's not what I'm talking about. But from the standpoint of all those, here we go again with another term that probably will need better definition, star seeds from past ancestry. So the individuals that came from other planets seeding this planet makes us all related. But we have to learn that that connection to creation is important because it has to create the balance of everything that's around us, the physical as well as the spiritual, for lack of better terms.
That's a fantastic answer. Star seeds. I totally buy that. I've always been a big fan of the theory. This is something, because I tend to think a lot about this stuff, Brett. So, have you ever heard a theory that maybe the reason why we're here is like we were like planted, millions of years ago, and whatever planet is here flew off and come back every now and then to check on us to see how we're doing.
Exactly.
And that's kind of their job. They go all over the universe or the multiverse and seed planets with life.
But when you look through the history of different cultures, you find the Pleiades are primary. They're referred to as the seven sisters or the seven angels, the seven stars. Arcturus, Sirius, A and B, Zeta 1 and 2. What's the other one? Aldebaran. That's really all through history, all around the planet. And they're all talking about these beings that came from these places to help them improve, to give them some form of knowledge. But then they left so that we could develop on our own. And the Pleiadians told Billy that they think of us as their little brothers and sisters because, quote unquote, their forefathers were our forefathers. So they are saying that they were one of those groups seeding this planet.
Oh, wow. And
yeah.
So Billy, okay, so this is the information that, and after what you witnessed, you were on board full-fledged with this. I tell you what, Brett, this is very interesting. I want to get down some other avenues because, like I said, you have lived a very interesting life with the UFO phenomena. I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to cut over to take a quick break, give a shout out to our sponsors. We'll be right back, folks. We're Brit Elders.
Have you ever wondered, or maybe just thought to yourself, if there were others just like you? You know, people with extraordinary abilities, psychogenic advancement, and perhaps unique intuitions. Maybe you just wondered if there were other people who experienced unimaginable, unexplained, or even unusual and paranormal events. Are there people who have more questions, more fears than answers? Well, you're not alone. You've never been alone. We believe you. Sign up for EA today.
Business. It's your property. Your assets are worth protecting. Blacklight Investigative and Surveillance Services specializes in patrolling and inspecting residential or commercial property against fire, theft, vandalism, terrorism, and illegal activity. People and buildings are monitored to prevent crime. Keep your property, your people, and your assets safe from threat. Our elite staff are dual licensed private investigators and security guards. Blacklight Investigative and Surveillance Services. Go to blacklightiss.com.
All right, we are back here. If you guys are just now tuning in, we are here with investigative author Brit Elders. All right, Brit, this has been this has been extremely interesting so far. Very interesting. But you have done a lot of cool stuff. You've been to a lot of cool places. I do want to ask you this because we were talking earlier before the break, kind of how, the arrogancy, as all humans can be, but you have been all over the planet. In America, there is this, UFOs aren't real. This is all make-believe, ha, ha, ha. For years, that's how it has been. But like you mentioned Japan, you mentioned Mexico, some other places in the world. What's kind of like their take? I mean, is it the same type of arrogancy?
No, not at all. Headset. Hang on.
There we go.
Yeah, I forgot this. Okay, no, it's very different. In Japan, people are very open to it. They have game shows about it. They talk about it on TV. It's not a big deal. They're curious. But then they have a culture that believes they came from the other side of the sun. So, and the same with the Chinese. The Chinese actually had a state-run magazine about UFOs years ago, where people could just pick it up on the street, and it had images that were taken in China, old images, new images, people's reports, things like that. Brazil, the same thing. The Brazilian government, very creative. They set up something like what we did here in the US, and they took it a different direction. Rather than taking in these reports and then saying, We can basically explain everything. They took the reports, put them out there for the public so the public could read them. Mexico, oh my gosh, it's remarkable what's going on down there. Has been since 1991, hasn't stopped, still going on. It's constant.
Which
Ecuador.
is so wild to me because it's when it comes to the UFO phenomena, it's not open borders.
Yeah.
It's very segregated throughout the world,
Yeah.
So it would be very easy to think that it's just a United States thing.
It's not. It is worldwide, literally worldwide. South Africa, we get reports from them all the time.
Oh yeah, the Zimbabwe was it the Zimbabwe school or
Yeah, but that happens all over. It's happened in other places away. Malaysia, they had a school full of sightings, kids coming out and seeing this thing and then going back in the classroom and drawing it. So yeah, it's all over the place. And we can't limit ourselves as curious humans, which we should be. We can't limit ourselves to saying, oh, it's just here and no place else. So it's a phenomenon that only appears in one area. It's everywhere.
Why is it though? It seems like the United States government has the say so over the whole thing. It's like how come the Chinese government's like, no, hey guys, they're real, or the Russian government, how come Russia? No, they're real, despite what you guys say in Congress. I just wonder why. What's going on there?
I think part of that has to do with the fact that for so long, the United States was respected because we were the front runners in technology. We were the front runners in rocketry. We were the front runners in everything. We had our competition going with the Soviet Union. We had our competition going with China on other things. But still, people look to us because we came up with the ideas and we spurred them forward. We wanted them to really produce good things. So the world looked to us. That's no longer the case. Now it's all over the globe. And we can't just expect the world to look to the US for answers. Everybody's really got to look within for answers, because until you look up, in fact, I just wrote an article on this, you got to take the time to look up. But until you do, and you have an experience, you won't totally believe it. Even if you want to believe it, until that experience is yours to own, it's just a story.
That's so true. I saw a UFO probably going now on 4 or 5 months ago. Very, very, very new. Very new. First time in my whole life. Okay.
Yeah.
I saw a UFO. And I always used to say, I've never seen one, but I believe in them. I would say this.
Yeah.
And, it was the strangest damn thing. I was driving down the road, broad daylight. And guess what I did? I just happened to look up.
Exactly.
And I looked up and it was a cylinder shaped type object. And it was moving on by. And the thing that was really uncanny about it, because I saw it, I was like, what the hell is that? Because it seemed like too high up to be a drone, and it was too low to be a plane. It definitely wasn't a plane. It was just a cylinder type object, and it was moving. Right. But the thing that was uncanny about it was the nonchalantness of it, I'm here. It's just one of these things flying in the sky.
You just got to look up.
And I was like, holy crap. And I looked around and then I immediately got my phone out. Okay. And I fell into a Bigfoot moment here because I got my phone out. I took a picture and like an idiot, I only got like a blurry glimpse of the dashboard, So I was like, okay, I'm going to wreck. I need to, but I didn't get a picture. I didn't even get a picture. So but I saw it. I don't know what the hell it was, but by then it was gone. It was gone. But I don't know. I don't know. But I saw it. But then it made me think, though. I was like, how often you may think you look up a lot, but really? Yeah. But come on, do you really? So no telling what we miss. You know what I'm saying?
Really true. Some of these cultures that we consider backwards, they're a little more forward than we are because they're not as rushed. They're not as hectic. They don't have a day that goes 24 hours. They take the time to look up. They take the time to enjoy what's around them, whether it's nature or the heavens. They enjoy that. We are too busy. We don't take a breath to enjoy the life we have.
Gosh,
And we
don't.
need to do that.
American culture, especially, I mean, we work. We're all about making money,
Yeah.
so we're constantly, that I've been saying that, a lot of places all over the world, other countries, they've got, things better figured out than we do.
Yeah, it's true.
When it comes to that. So Japan, have you been to Japan?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. That's right. And you said they would do, no, it was China that did the magazines.
China did the magazine.
Gotcha.
Japan has done a lot of books on UFOs. They have television shows all the time on the subject. They bring footage in from all around the world and they share it with the population. So they're open-minded.
Okay, this is something I was thinking about because this is what in kind of what I'm gathering about what's going on right now. I think they are letting us in slowly.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the techniques for breaking the news to somebody, but breaking the news slowly to them, is you present the truth. And if it starts getting too fast, you throw in some bullshit to slow it down.
Mm-hmm.
So, because one of the worst things you can do, this is not a good thing to do, folks, by the way, but we all do it, is when we hear some credible evidence and we're like, wow, this is great. Then a non-credible idiot pops up and says something completely wrong that is wrong. Then people say, well, it all must be BS.
Exactly.
And that is not that is not real. That's not reality. Okay. But that's the technique that I feel like they are doing. Mm-hmm. So we get some great evidence, something real, the truth, and then here comes BS. Boom. Because if we get moving too fast, we got to slow it down a little bit.
Yes. I think you're absolutely right.
I used to wonder, why are they doing this? And why not just rip the Band-Aid off? Why not just let us all know these things? And I think there's a lot of reasons. And with you being around the world, I think a lot of cultures are more in depth with it, but there's also some cultures that I think religion
plays a big role in keeping it back. Yes,
absolutely. And I'm not just picking on Christianity. I'm talking about, you have other religions, that are fighting in the world right now, Right. So how would they react to something like that?
Well, another thing, think of what would happen to the stock market.
Oh, absolutely. The economy.
If we had a mass landing all around the world right now, what on earth would the stock market and the entire monetary system that drives this planet, what would it do? It would collapse.
That would destroy us before any alien life form would.
Exactly.
And so it could wreck the economy. It could, there's so many things that could happen, if it just happened all at once. Because, and I know people like to walk around, well, I wouldn't act that way. But sorry, though, the human race that you're a part of, we stink, remember? They would totally, screw it up. Trust me. They would totally screw it up. But anyways, I think that's the purpose for the kind of slowness that they're doing. It's just something I thought of. But we got another question from Live Light. Hey, by the way, I see you guys over here in the comment section. Lisa, how you doing? Alien